Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Eating Recovery. My name is Alison Ross, and I'm a psychotherapist and a certified eating disorder specialist, and also the founder and clinical director of NDH Therapy. And also, I'm somebody who recovered from an eating disorder myself. Our intention with these talks is to provide a space of comfort, connection, and inspiration for anyone navigating eating recovery. Together, we're going to explore some relevant and challenging topics in recovery, always with the hope of offering support and encouragement along the way. So I'm joined today by two incredible therapists from the team, Sydney Hafer and Lindsay Hall. Both of them not only treat eating disorders, but are also recovered themselves, which means they really bring a unique perspective to the work that we do. So, Sydney and Lindsay, I'm going to turn it over to you and let each of you introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Hall. I'm an associate marriage and family therapist at NDH. I'm also a doctoral student at the Chicago School, focusing on creating a family-based eating disorder program. So I'm very passionate about this field and this population and really excited to be here.
And hi, I'm Sydney Hafer. I am an associate marriage and family therapist and associate professional clinical counselor at NDH. I am also a recovered human that loves working with eating disorders. It's something I'm really, really passionate about, helping people connect to resources in the community and helping people kind of show up as their most authentic version of themselves.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited that we're going to be doing this together. This is our first one. So today we're going to talk about body image because body image is a really important topic in eating recovery. I mean, you can tell me if you guys agree, but I would say that pretty much behind or the root of any eating disorder is going to be some kind of disturbance or anxiety about body image. And unfortunately, it's such a common thing in our society that oftentimes at a young age, we get put under all this pressure about how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to eat and act and all that. Under that pressure, we can develop a lot of anxiety about how our bodies are, how our weight is, what our growth patterns are, what our eating is. Once we start to feel anxious about our bodies, it can often lead us right into disordered eating or eating disorders because if we're feeling bad about our bodies, we might be trying to fix or change them, meaning we might get into skipping meals or dieting or over-exercising or using food to calm the pain that we're in. And once those actions sort of become habits, what we have is an eating disorder. So today what we wanted to talk about is just some of what influences body image in the first place. Like, how is it that so many of us come to feel anxious about our bodies, and then oftentimes that leads to eating disorders? So I thought maybe we could talk about what are some of the things that influenced our body image? What are some of the things that made us feel anxious, that contributed to the eating disorders that we developed? And what are some experiences that maybe uplifted us and helped us to be more accepting and comfortable in our bodies as we recovered?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind in my experience is like family messaging around what was okay, what was not okay, generational patterns like that. I know, like, I'm the middle of two older sisters, and I remember growing up, I had specific rules about like food or clothing that they weren't necessarily susceptible to. And like just the idea of hand-me-downs, right? Like I wasn't allowed to wear their clothes because I wasn't fitting into them. So then hand-me-downs became like I got my mom's clothes, which was like so incongruent with like my age, my development. And so I remember at a young age, a lot of anxiety coming up in just the clothes that I was allowed to wear.
Mm-hmm. Like having a feeling maybe that because you were getting the hand-me-downs from mom versus your sister, that something was wrong with your body for not fitting into your sister's clothes.
Yeah, remember that being like a really strong core memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any sense or memory or even imagination about why you thought of it that way?
I think I internalized direct conversations that were told.
directly things were said.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like what shaped my narrative of body image.
How confusing that is as a little kid, too, who doesn't understand kind of social cues, the nature of conversations, relationships with other people, and like receiving these messages and automatically believing that like that is reality.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a very like body image focused family too. So that kind of those experiences really compounded each other.
Yeah, like others in your family had themselves probably received messages about their bodies that made them feel anxious in some way. So they're bringing kind of their conditioning into the situation.
For sure.
Yeah, I really relate to that because a very profound memory for me is that when I was growing up, I don't know, probably I was in elementary school and we had kind of like an outing that we would do. I don't know, maybe once a week. We did it regularly where my mom would pick up myself and my siblings and take us to get ice cream. And the norm was that you walked up to the counter and you chose two flavors. So you got a double scoop. And that was like the best part about it, right? Is that you got to choose two flavors. And so much of my young life, that was our routine.
Mhm.
And then one day, as I was becoming a preteen, go to the ice cream place, go up to the counter. My brother, who is a bit older than a year and a half older than me, chooses his two scoops of ice cream and makes his order. And then it's my turn. And I come up and I'm about to choose my two scoops. And all of a sudden, my mom goes, no, wait, I think one is enough. And I mean, my mom is 100% not trying to do anything to hurt me or embarrass me or anything. But as we were just talking about, my mom's got her own conditioning, right? And I kind of just knew, although I don't know how I knew in that moment, that the reason that I was no longer able to get two was because I had gained weight.
Mm.
I was a preteen and I was gaining weight. And can I just put out there that that's what happens
Yeah.
in preteen? I wasn't like kicking puppies. I was like growing up. And I wish that my mom had been empowered to see it that way. As a mother, I got to be empowered to see it that way as my kids grew up, but I don't think she was. I just remember that it was incredibly embarrassing and it was kind of a shocking moment for me. And I remember that I understood, for whatever reason, that it was because I was gaining weight and that now I was not really supposed to be eating. I don't know. I think I just like blanket statement that, like I'm just probably not supposed to be eating sort of generally. And I remember even standing there at the counter, I went, oh, I don't, I don't want anything. And like I didn't order anything. And I remember sitting there and watching them all eat their double scoops of ice cream and just feeling so embarrassed. Like, I don't even deserve ice cream anymore.
I would say mine started in kind of elementary school as well. I have such distinct memories of being such an anxious kid that like really struggled social skills wise and always really wanted to fit in. And I'm a very tall human. I'm 6 feet tall. I've been tall my entire life. Um, and I remember kind of getting comments at school really, really frequently about how I was significantly taller than my peers. The first time I remember kind of my body being pointed out to me was when I was like 7 years old or in second grade. And I developed this idea in my head that something was wrong because I was tall and because I was different, and it meant that I didn't fit in. And if I didn't fit in, the world was felt like it was going to fall apart and end. And I developed kind of this pattern of thinking that if I was able to shrink myself weight-wise, maybe it would compensate for the fact that I was significantly taller than my peers. And was like this game that I played with myself where I was like, this is the, I can't control how tall no one can control how tall they are, but like I can control this one thing. And maybe I can make myself invisible so people don't keep pointing this out to me. That was something that stuck with me until probably I was in college. I was very insecure about my height and really felt the need to manipulate my body to feel like I could fit in and like fit the mold.
You know what stands out to me so much about your story is that, belonging is just a basic human need.
Mhm.
and oh my gosh, playground politics, so difficult to belong in. Like that's a difficult space to be in for most. And going to school and trying to figure out like how to have friends and how to keep friends and how it's hard for a lot of us, right? And when people were pointing that out, were pointing out your height, I think it was making you feel like something was different and wrong about you versus like this is just your height and we all have different bodies, right?
Yeah, looking back, I'm sure people weren't had no malicious intent behind it. It was, I mean, even now, people everywhere I go, they're like, "Oh my God, you're so tall," and like just it like comes out of people's mouths, and I don't think anyone thinks anything of it. But little 7-year-old Sydney was like, they're pointing this out to me because I'm deeply flawed and something's wrong with me, and I'm a horrible person, and like I need to shrink and disappear. I like made it about who I was instead of just a quality of my physical appearance.
Yeah, and there's this hope, right? That if I were to shrink, then there would be no challenges
Ah,
socially, right? Like if I
yeah.
look a certain way, then I do get to eat ice cream. Then I
Mhm.
do get to wear the clothes that I want to wear. Then I do get to like that I do get to belong. I do get to there's no more vulnerability. If only we could get rid of the interpersonal challenges just by like changing our bodies. I think because there's so much noise in our society and the media about how a certain body or appearance fixes your whole life. Like
Mhm.
all this magical thinking about it. I think that when we're in pain and we don't feel like we're belonging, that's where we go. And we
Mhm.
get into this really magical thinking of if I were to just like, quote, fix my body, whatever we think that is, that I won't have problems anymore or I won't have these problems anymore.
And I think one of the things that's so tricky about disordered eating is for so many people, it never feels like enough. And you're just chasing it constantly. And it's like you set, oh, when I get here, all my problems will be gone. I'll fit in socially. I'll feel confident. I'll feel secure, like you name what it is. But then you get there and that's not enough. And it just keeps going and going and going and getting progressively scarier.
It's like we just keep moving the bar.
Yeah, the target is completely moving the entire time.
1000% resonate with this idea that if I'm just invisible, all the spotlight will be removed. I
Mhm.
think that's also something that is so common because, like, the idea of being invisible, there's almost like an armor or a
Mhm.
protection that goes with it, metaphorically speaking. But as long as you have that, it's like everything in my life is okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it feels so real. I
Yeah.
mean, we believe it when we're in disordered eating, eating disorder. We really do believe that we're going to reshape ourselves in a certain way. And at that point, we will be safe, we will belong, we will be okay. And the reason that it doesn't work, though, I think, is because that was always a lie anyway. I
Mhm.
mean, there is no body that a person can have that can save us from life's challenges and vulnerabilities, right? Like no matter what, we're always going to have them. And what we really need is like the resilience to come through them,
Mhm.
you know?
And what a hard place it is to accept that the noise is a lie.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think then we don't feel like we have as much control as we want to have. The body project, it's like a control project. It's like to turn myself into something that makes me invulnerable.
And then, like, you take the influence of like diet cultures and media and advertisements and, society's binary way of thinking. It's this or that. I'm accepted or I'm not.
Mhm.
It really like plays a huge mind trick on us. That is
Yeah.
hard to kind of like criticize or challenge, right? Because we all become desensitized to all the social messages around us that we don't even realize is influencing how we're nurturing and not nurturing our bodies.
Yeah. We kind of buy them hook, line, and sinker.
Mhm.
They just seem like the truth. Got that a lot because I think about I wonder, and my mom is no longer here. My mom passed, so I can't ask her. But I do wonder what caused her to worry about her body and mind so much, you know? And I don't know the answer to that, and I'll never know the answer to that, but it would have been helpful to me if my mom would have been somebody who could normalize my growth, you know, our natural growth trends, right? If that would have seemed normal to her instead of that seeming like it was a problem, I think that that would have really helped, because like if we were going to eat double scoops of ice cream in our house, that's what we should all do,
Yeah.
regardless of the body that we're in, you know? Like we all deserve, if that's what we do as a family, we all deserve to do that, is kind of my feeling about it.
100%.
I agree.
And it's interesting that we talk about moms, because what comes to mind isn't my relationship with my mom as much as it's my relationship with my dad.
Mm. In what way?
He is a person that makes a lot of comments, and I guess his influence in the family was really strong. And so it's like you had to listen, because if you didn't listen, we didn't really know what was going to happen.
Mhm.
And so, like, when he would make food comments, it's like, oh, he must be right then, and I must follow
Mhm.
everything that he says. So it's interesting to like kind of reflect on our relationships with different parents.
I think I am a little bit more in Allison's boat, where I very much think about my mom. So much of who we are when we're small children is the messages we receive from our primary caretakers. And I remember just like feeding off of her anxiety. It's like, if she's anxious about this, well, then don't I have to be anxious about it too? Because, like, you know, like your parents are your world when you're younger, and that's your perception of reality. And
Mhm.
it felt like a easy copy paste.
Yeah. And I was relating a bit also to like what Lindsay said about dads, because my dad felt very free making body comments about people. He would frequently make fun of people that he considered to be too large on the street. You know, we're in the car and he's laughing at this person or calling them a name. And he would like sometimes when we would help ourselves to food, he would tell us that it was the name of one of my cousins that he used to make fun of her weight, that it was a her helping. And you know, and then I guess I'm sitting here going, well, that's why my mom was anxious. You know,
Yeah.
she was like, I mean, not that that's the only reason, but you know, she understood that my dad had an expectation for how females should look. And she's trying to conform to that. And she also wants me to be able to conform to that, right? Because in her mind, that's helping me be successful. Learning to just have the one scoop of ice cream or dieting or watching your weight, that's in our family one of the ways that females were successful.
Yeah, that brings up a lot. I feel like my dad and I, we were always competitive with each other, but it was always like this unspoken competition that was always happening. And you know, he struggled with his own mental health and addiction relationships. And you know, I always remember like being in the space of like, well, I'm going to do better. I'm going to beat the addiction, his addiction. And that's the way that I'm going to be perceived as like strong or better or acceptable. And if I can take on this really hard challenge, then everything's going to be cool. But then like it took so many years to realize that like that's not the case. But it even goes back to like body image, right? He was always one that freely made comments about other people's appearance and body, and you know, would always like subliminally send those messages to like my stepmom too. And the competition part of myself came out, which is like, oh, I'm going to do it better. Or, you know, I'm going to prove to him that he's wrong. And then it was just not a good relationship to develop. But that's how kind of like success was viewed in my family too. Like this idea of being in competition with each other and to see who could do it better.
I think these are just like such important memories helping us understand how we got to a place where we sort of overestimated the importance of having a certain body and felt so anxious about our own. Maybe we could talk a little bit about like how do we come through that? You know, as we recovered, what are some of the influences that helped us to become more accepting of how our bodies are and helped us to heal from all this anxiety?
Yeah, I think I can be the first one to admit the body piece was a really complicated and messy, challenging piece of eating disorder recovery for me. Um, I often kind of used it as my scapegoat of like, let me be a disaster for a little bit and like let me use behaviors and let me not fully move on. Um, and I feel like this is something I talk about with my clients very frequently. It's something I talk about with my friends and family really frequently in our kind of supervision. But the practice of gratitude when I was able to, I remember kind of going through treatment and eating disorder recovery and them talking about like going from body hatred, we can call, to like body compassion and like self-love. And I was like, y'all are crazy. I'm like, that it like you're trying to ask me to go from 0 to 100. I'm not gonna be able to do that. And kind of landing in the middle of being able to tolerate your body and being able to have appreciation for your body for the functionality of it. And I was like, okay, maybe I can give that a shot. Like that feels a little bit more achievable for me. And once I was a little bit more stable and doing better in my recovery, I was able to function so much better. I was able to do things I cared about. I had energy. I was sleeping better. I didn't feel I like my body temperature could regulate. Um, and I remember it was the first time that I was able to kind of stop and reflect and be like, holy crap, this is so cool. Like my body is healing itself and like is the thing that allows me to be alive. And I think that continues to be a practice that I'm in today. I think so often I think about the beautiful life that I have and that I've built for myself and how that would not be possible if it were not for my body. I love to do yoga. That my body is what allows me to do yoga. I love to listen to music. My ears are the thing that listen to music. We all know I love to talk. Like that's a function of my body. I love to learn. That's my brain. And it's like the only way my body functions properly is when I'm properly nourishing myself and like putting energy into being a recovered human.
Such amazing shifts, right, that came for you in recovery from like feeling anxious or being critical of your body to like being so grateful for it and being so grateful of the experience of being in it. And also the other thing you said about like I was just thinking about it sounded like there was this big shift where like you come from a place of like food is such a scary, terrible thing, you know, such a messy, scary thing
Yeah.
to recovery where it's like you got to eat,
Hmm.
like eat. Food is, you know, food is medicine and it's pleasure and it's joy and it's connection and it's all the things.
Hmm.
Such an important shift to that I think we get when we're in recovery, you
Yeah.
know, doing therapy.
Yeah, I think that shift is very possible and can happen for anyone. But I do think it's important to add that as a recovered human who has a body and lives in a society that is like fueled by diet culture and is a woman who like has chronic health conditions that weight fluctuates and like cycles and everything, like not to say I am not obsessed with my body every single day. Like there are days where I'm like, oh my goodness, these pants feel tight, or I have a like I just don't feel good. But the difference now is that I can step back and hold space for the fact that that doesn't define anything about me. It does not determine my worth. And that at the end of the day, I still need to nourish myself appropriately because messing with my food is not going to solve the body image problem. Like it actually makes me feel worse.
the nature of a body is change, right? But
Ah,
they do not teach us that.
no, no.
So even in recovery, as you go through life and your body changes, it could be hard,
Mhm.
even though you don't go as intensely into maybe the fears that you used to go. I think the main thing is like how to read the signs that you're in stress, and you
Yeah.
know how to like show up for yourself in a different way and support yourself, and support your body in whatever it's going through, whatever its phase is. And that's, I think, the thing that recovery gave me is like, it's not that you're never going to worry again, it's that you're going to know what to do with that.
I agree. For me, it was a lot of like, I had to rewrite a new story that allowed space for recovery because my body image stuff was so rooted in core beliefs and messaging that other people gave me that once I was able to like find my identity, kind of separate what belongs to me, what belongs to family, what is old versus what is new, that created a lot of space for me to not cope in the way that I was coping before, but to like wrap myself in a blanket and grab a cup of tea and watch a show and like self-soothe in a new way that didn't feel punishing because it led me down a path that was old and archaic and the stories didn't fit the life that I wanted to create for myself anymore. And then also, like Sid said, like finding gratitude for the different parts of our bodies that allow us to do the things that we love so much. Like we need nourishment so we can be a therapist and an academic and a researcher and an advocate and all those things. We need our bodies to be fueled and healed so we can get from place to place.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
that's such an important shift right there in and of itself, that like we're not trying to be billboards here. We're not trying to be like one-dimensional things. We're trying to have a life and be happy. And my mentor Carolyn Costin would always say, bigger body, bigger life. And that was like, that's a really, I think, helpful thing to hear, is that if when we stop just trying to like fit ourselves into some shape that is not meant for us, and we just allow ourselves to be ourselves, we do get a bigger life from that.
Mhm.
and to add to that, defining what recovery means for us and recognizing that over time and over years, that story can shift or
Mhm.
what recovery means can shift. And, looking at recovery in all dimensions, right? Physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, relational, and allowing it to be and not, you know, trying to place ourselves in like these certain categories of what we think recovery should mean, but allowing fluidity during the journey. Because, like, at least for me, I have to choose recovery every single day.
Mm.
It's not something that just, cool, we're on this path for a couple years and it's all over. It's like, no, like the pressures are there. The noise is, much more quieter than it once was, but it's like a daily practice of committing to and allowing for shifts and fluidity to come over time.
Yeah. I'll just say that one of the biggest influences for me in recovering a positive image of myself was finding yoga
Mhm.
and learning how to meditate. I really just thought I was finding a new exercise that was going to fix me, but I was fortunate to have gone to this yoga studio that was so like loving and nurturing. And it wasn't about like a workout. It was about like connecting your mind and your body and actually like getting quiet and seeing your mental processes and being mindful about whether like we really want those or not. And yoga gave me this experience that was unlike any I had ever had, or maybe I had had when I was really young before I got nervous about my body, but like where I just like felt comfortable in my body because it was calming my nervous system down. And when I started to get comfortable in my body, then it became okay to be in this body. It was a huge shift for me, which is like why I think, why I do neurofeedback and help people work with their nervous systems, because I know that if we can get to comfort in our bodies, we're going to get to a positive feeling about our bodies as well, or a positive concept.
I love yoga.
Yeah. So good.
And I love like the community that I was able to receive from yoga too.
Mm.
Like there's something like so comforting about like going to class, but like going to class and like knowing people, and like going to a class where you feel comfortable, and going to a class where everyone is present in their own experience and in their own bodies, and it doesn't feel like this competition that maybe some other spaces would feel.
So I'm just curious, thanks so much for having this conversation today. I'm curious about how anybody watching this, maybe how you might relate to some of the things that we're talking about, or what your experiences have been. And we'd love to hear from you. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you so much for being here with us, and we hope to see you again soon.